Dan Bursa Malaysia menyaksikan kemasukan bersih dana asing sebanyak 352 juta ringgit pada minggu lepas. Menurut BIMB Securities Research, pelabur asing membeli saham-saham murah mengekori prestasi positif di Wall Street. Dalam masa yang sama, faktor lain yang mempengaruhi aliran masuk pelaburan asing adalah data ekonomi yang lemah di Eropah. Pasaran turut dipengaruhi faktor seperti harga minyak yang sebelum ini mencatatkan peningkatan dan data ekonomi Amerika yang lemah. Dan untuk melihat prestasi bursa tempatan, kita bersama pengarah urusan Affin Hwang Asset Management Berhad Teng Chee Wai. Mr. Teng, this will be a very short trading week before the long Chinese New Year weekend. How will this affect trading on Bursa Malaysia?
I think this week the market will be a very short week. Interest could also be a little bit more quiet. But I think the fund flows that we've seen in the last 1 week marks the first time after months of outflows that we've seen from foreign investors. I think that's good news. As long as the investors' view on ringgit remains positive, I think over time we may continue to see inflows of money from the foreign investors.
We'll get back to that, but let's look at the regional market. Japan has recently announced a negative interest rate policy to increase its inflation. Will this be enough to offset grim data from the US and China? And if how will this affect the sentiment on Bursa Malaysia?
I think generally the decision made by Japan last week to have a negative interest rates show to the global markets that the central banks, the policies remain supportive of markets in general. I think that is a cue to investors that the central banks are pretty supportive of the global environment. They know that globally the economic cycle remains weak and they need to be supportive of it. So I think the policy decision by Japan is just not seen from Bursa perspective, but from a global perspective, that investors take comfort that the central banks remain supportive of markets.
And will we continue to see foreign fund flowing into the Bursa Malaysia or exiting the country despite last week positive inflow numbers? So what will it be moving forward? More funds flowing to the country or more funds flowing out of the country?
I think the inflow you must be seen from the perspective of the emerging markets. We have seen a lot of outflows in the last 2 years or so. This is the first time that we've seen inflow. While it's too early to call that this is the start of more inflows coming in, I think the policy decisions taken by Malaysia, in particular regards to the revised budget that we have, and also the news that Malaysia, while we are oil exporting country, the government's reliance on oil in the budget continue to reduce, and that's been seen positively by foreign investors. And on the issue of 1MDB, the perception that it has affected the market, I think we have seen probably the worst on that perspective. And from a foreign runner perspective, the ringgit may be seen undervalued at certain levels, and they are investing with the perception that at some point when the ringgit recovers back to its more fairer level, they have the opportunity to make money from the currency and also from the market.
Okay, and lastly, will we see the same sentiment next week as we see in even shorter trading, 3 days, if I'm not mistaken, next week following the Chinese New Year holiday on Monday and Tuesday? Will we see the same sentiment, or what will be the factors affecting Bursa as we move closer to the end of the week?
I think towards the end of the week, markets will be quiet because we are going into long holidays, not just Malaysia.
Okay.
Most of the ASEAN markets will also be closed as we go into Chinese New Year. So I think it will be a very quiet environment. I think more importantly is to see beyond the short term that, and to watch for signals that if the earnings cycle within Asia were to recover, I think we may have seen one of the worst periods for Asia markets.
Thank you very much, Teng Chee Wai, pengarah urusan Affin Hwang Asset Management Berhad, memberikan komen berkenaan dengan prestasi Bursa Malaysia, dan kita akan berehat ataupun berhenti di sini saja. Laporan itu mengakhiri Bisnes Awani.